Hi, everybody. It's Tim Hagen, and I'm going to teach something today called approachability and coachability. Now, we hear those terms a lot, and I really believe it is the secret sauce to what's missing in workplace cultures. Let me explain why. We're hearing everything about AI, and we should, because it's awesome, it's cool, it's different, it's something that we can all use. But when we think about employees, there's going to be an impact. Are they approachable? Are they coachable? Think about change transformation. Think about a new ERP system going in. Do you ever hear employees say, yippee, I can't wait? So today, we're going to talk about approachability and coachability. And I think the one thing that we have to be very conscientious of, and I've said this for now 32 years, leaders have it tough. Leaders don't coach because they say they don't have time. That's not the real reason. They don't know what to do and say. Since the pandemic, challenges have been exponentially accelerated. Now we have AI, it's even become tougher. And here's the worst part, numbers are stacked against them. So when you take 71% of people, according to Gallup, that are neutral or actively disengaged, that means 7.1 out of every 10 people that are being managed are neutral or negative. Then when you take Tasha Urich's work about self-awareness, when 95% of the people in her survey said, yes, I'm highly self-aware, and she tests them, and then only 10% are, meaning 8.5 out of every 10 people being managed are lacking self-awareness. That's why people push back on feedback. People aren't approachable and coachable. What are we to do? We have to get very creative with our coaching. We have to be conscientious of our coaching, okay? Now, I'm going to share a diagram with you. Just give me 2 seconds here as I go through this, and I want to show this to you. So when you look at organizations, okay, and you look at the makeup, I was reading an article on Harvard Business Review that 60 to 70% of organizations are made up of employees or individual contributors, okay? Yet we take so much time and energy and money, and we take this top-down approach from executives getting coached or vice presidents getting executive coaching and management to director, and then first-level leadership like team leaders, our supervisors as well. And so when you look at this very simple diagram, have we taught the foundational level, and let's just call it level 4, the 70%, have we taught them how to seek and accept feedback? Have we taught them how to say thank you when they get feedback, even when they have feedback they disagree with? It really puts leaders in a very precarious position. AI is coming, tons of change has occurred since the pandemic. Are we going to work at the office? Are we going to be virtual? Is AI going to replace my job? All of these things are coming at leaders today. So what if there was a way? What if there was a way to teach people how to become coachable and approachable, how to make it easy for someone to get coached? So let me just share this with you. I was sitting down with an individual who was really upset, got passed over for a job, pretty typical situation. And I asked him, I said, so what are you going to do to rise above this? Oh, I'm just so mad. And people are very emotional creatures, right? So think about approachability and coachability. And I said, I'm going to ask you a question. And a lot of my clients love this question. Would you want to manage you? Guy looks at me and goes, what are you talking about? I said, would you want to manage you? And he just sat there. And I said, because you're pleasing, you seek feedback, you smile when you get it. You don't fold your arms, you don't push back. You don't talk to other employees about feedback you disagreed with, do you? And this guy puts his head down. I started laughing and go, it's tough, right? It's tough leading people. And I talk a lot about leadership latitude. Got to give leaders some latitude. What if we had the premise at this diagram that the 70% were taught how to seek and accept coaching and feedback? One, they're demonstrating approachability, yet they're increasing their coachability. What if the masses did that? Now, I'm about to go through a slide deck. I want to show this slide deck to you, and I want you to just think about some of the techniques that we're going to teach. Now, I'm going to just tease you a little bit here. This is a approachability coachability series that we have, approachability and coaching series, where we coach the masses. We actually track each session. So we do things like, seeking feedback, accepting feedback, how to own your attitude, titles like that, how to show up as a great teammate, things like that. And what we do is we do this for some of our clients. If you're intrigued by this, we can craft a custom schedule and custom set of titles for you. So just click on this QR code and we'll get you some information on how the program works. And the reason I'm doing that now is it's embedded in this particular tool that we're using. So I'm going to switch over to my slide deck. Again, I go back to just a couple quick thoughts. Approachability and coachability. 71% are neutral or negative. 85% lack self-awareness. That's tough on leaders. So what if we reverse engineered it and we taught people how to go get coaching, how to make it easy to give feedback? We're going to teach a technique called Eat Feedback that absolutely solves this at a major, major level. We'll even give you a quote of a multi-billion-dollar company and a CEO where we're currently doing this within 9 months. They're actually calling it the movement. Not because we're doing it, it's because we're teaching it. We're reverse engineering the workplace. Instead of a top down, we're going a bottom up and sideways. So let's switch over to the slide deck. Now, as we go through this title and we go through these concepts a little bit deeper, I'm going to take a little bit of a pot shot at our industry. Please don't get offended. Just bear with me. Building approachability and coachability takes actions. Let me give you a quick intro. Often I hear the leaders say, well, he's lacking accountable. You got to hold him accountable. That's a reactive measure to when someone isn't accountable. How do we proactively build accountability? The same concept holds true here. We're going to proactively teach people how to be approachable and coachable. So we know open communication. We know building trust. We know increasing collaboration. Better problem. We know all of these things improve approachability. Yet how do we facilitate the actions to get better at these? And I think that's the missing piece, okay? So when we think about coaching, gone from approachability to coaching has exponentially grown. And I even think about present day. I should have put in here something about 2020. The pandemic actually helped the coaching industry. Not a great thing to share, yet it really has helped the coaching industry. So when you think about approachability, it does win an audience. And I think about John Whitmore, one of the founders of executive coaching. And he talks about coaching is unlocking people's potential to maximize their own performance. It is helping them to learn rather than teaching them. Here's the fundamental difference, and I love his definition. The fact of the matter is, you cannot coach somebody who does not want to be coached. If I'm coaching someone and asking all these great questions to unlock someone's negative attitude to become positive, they have a choice to be positive or negative. It's a choice. And that's where approachability and coachability come into play. So let's think about our team. Let's think about somebody like Samantha, who just got passed over for a promotion. Is she more motivated the next day or less motivated? And let's think about David, who doesn't want to become a manager, yet really, he's a software guy. He just wants to work on his own. He doesn't want to collaborate and communicate. He's an introvert. He's intrinsically motivated, loves his job, would prefer to work on his own. Then you have, someone like Emily Wilson. And you think about this person who is leading the team as a team leader. And oh, by the way, used to be a former peer. And then you have Aiden, who just joined the company, just joined the team as a new employee. That's a lot of stuff for leaders to manage, certainly for them to coach. So let's go back to this diagram. 70%, 60 to 70, let's just call it 70 for math's sake, are employees and individual contributors. These people, including our leaders, have never, I promise you, have probably never, rarely does anyone go through a semester-long, year-long course on how to seek feedback and coaching professionally and thoughtfully. Most of the time, we dismiss feedback. You know how? When somebody says, give me an example, they don't want an example. They want a situation so they can rebuttal the feedback. We spend a lot of time and money in these upper three levels when the bulk of the organization is at that foundational level. So what do? We know smiling, we know open posture, we know eye contact and active listening and clarifying questions. We know all of these things need to be done. So here's my question to you. Have you put them into practice? Because if someone isn't practicing clarifying questions, if someone isn't used to offering assistance to coworkers, those are events, they're not habits. That's the missing piece as well. So when you think about coaching impact, this is from a study at Harvard. Employee engagement increased 25%, productivity, retention rate. The number one reason people quit organizations today is their boss. Whether fair or unfair, coaching makes an impact. So we know the coaching process: rapport, assess needs, set objectives, develop action plan. Now, as much as this can be laid out and we have goals and all those good things, at a foundational level, somebody has a choice to participate or not participate, to be coached, to not be coached, to be mentored, to not be mentored, to accept feedback or dismiss feedback. Here's the funny thing about feedback. Most of us, a lot of times people will do what? Is feedback can be very personal to people. And a lot of times with feedback, what do? We come up with reasons to dismiss it based on our agreement or disagreement with the feedback. The point of feedback is perception, to give someone insight. That takes practice. So all of these are valuable tips. Yet I'm about to teach you something that I think will absolutely blow you away at its simplicity, and it solves a major problem. So we need to listen attentively, use positive tone, be approachable, smile and make eye contact, open body language, ask questions and seek feedback. All of those things require action and practice. Let me dare say this. We also have to have it scheduled. If you are not scheduling these things for your people as a leader, I promise you they are not scheduling them for themselves. So here are two things I'm going to spend some time on. As beautiful a diagram as this slide is, I wanted to keep it simple. A listening chat can be done by anybody. We encourage leaders to do it. A listening chat is when we call somebody to the office and say, Bob, Susie, what are you seeing on the front lines? What are you seeing that I need some assistance, or maybe something I need to look at more closely that maybe I'm not aware of? There's a critical point and juncture. We talk about this at our company all the time. Conversations have defining moments. And before I get to this, I want to share this with you. We are in front of a board of directors, and one of my favorite clients of all time, the CEO, has us teaching their board of directors coaching, which is really an interesting strategy, and it's actually worked for the most part. And he got in front of the board and he said, do you want to meet with us, the executive team in the room, or would you like to also have sessions privately with Tim and his organization? And somebody said, well, I think it'd be good to do them privately. In that moment, if he had said, well, why is that? Then what was the purpose of asking the question? His response was immediate. Okay, great. We'll make sure that happens. And thank you so much for your transparency. You could feel the room's energy. So when you're asking a listening chat and somebody says, well, I just think we need to be more clear with our procedure and policy updated information. And if a manager in that moment says something like, well, wait a minute, we've sent out 3 memos. How many more times do we have to do it? Then why ask them for feedback? In that moment, that employee will go to the stratosphere. I will never give feedback again, whether fair or unfair. That's what happens. So a listening chat is asking people for feedback to be pushed upward. And the critical part of the whole interaction, once you get the feedback as a leader, is to simply look at that person and say, thank you. I'm going to digest this. I want to reflect upon this. Are you cool if I reach back out to you if I need to dig in deeper? But I love that you shared this with me. Your office will go from a place they fear, and you may not want to hear that. It'll go from a place that they fear to a place that they absolutely want to visit. Now, if somebody says, yeah, but, and they interrupt, they'll never want to give you feedback again. They'll never tell you that. So now, what do we need to get our employees doing? We need them to take action. Now, we teach probably about 20 titles to build approachability and coachability. This is one segment of our feedback acceptance approach, which is one of our monthly approachability coachability series that we ask you to scan with the QR code. EAT feedback stands for embrace, ask, and tell. We encourage organizations to have employees do this every week so they create a cadence and a application of practice. Now, EAT feedback is not necessarily constructive feedback. It could be, John, what are 2 things I do well, and what's one area where I have an opportunity to improve? Now, John gives the feedback, the embraces. Well, first of all, John, thanks a lot for the feedback. I really appreciate you doing this. Let me ask you, in regard to my area of opportunity to improve, what are 2 strategies you would encourage? John will answer, then the tell comes into play. Well, first of all, John, again, thanks. Here's what I've heard you say. Let me tell you what I'm going to do with that feedback, which builds accountability and ownership. It puts it into practice. We have one company in particular where one of their statistics, their performance statistics, went up over 30 percentage points in the first 9 months. Why? Because people are practicing approachability and coachability. So the numbers are against our leaders. So we have to remember as leaders, 76% according to Teresa Amable at Harvard, people are at their most motivated state, almost 8 out of 10. Yet when we call people into the office, what do? We give constructive feedback. That's why the listening chats are so important. 8-to-1 ratio. Gallup reports people engage 8 times more when we lead with people's strengths. I cited Tasha Urich's book, New York Times bestseller, Insight. 95% of people said, yes, I'm highly self-aware. When she tested them, only 10% were. This makes things difficult. Very difficult. So, we have an Approachability Coachability series. Here's one of our favorite clients, the CEO of Aurora Cooperative. And what we do is we teach, and I want it, and you might just get this from methodology, and I hope you'll reach out to us to see if we can do some work for you. But basically, it's a live automated webinar. We actually track participation, and we use an assessment tool that we've built. We ask coaching questions. Now what we're doing is we're actually calling this Coach Aid. Automated integrated delivery. So after the webinar, we have reinforcement of 7 to 14 to 21 days, specific to a topic like being a great teammate, seeking, accepting feedback, et cetera, et cetera. But this organization, and you can see Chris's nice quote down here, they actually call it the movement. So we literally every single month, twice a month, we talk to their masses. And they're live, what we call coaching webinars. We're not lecturing. They're doing activities, case studies, situational analysis, what would you do scenarios, and they're high energy, as you can tell. I'm a hyper guy, but the point being is we're building approachability and coachability. I would really encourage you, scan this QR code and get some information. We'll reach out to you. We can even do a sample for you if you want. There's a fee for it, but I mean, we're not going to do anything for free, but I will tell you that once we do that, one of the things that I would really encourage you to do is to dive into this. Because when you look at that 70%, that base of the triangle, guess what we're doing? We're building the foundation of the organization. And when people become more approachable and coachable, leaders become more willing. When people become approachable and coachable, they're more willing to communicate and collaborate. When people become more approachable and coachable to their peers, it creates succession planning. If you build your culture from a foundational perspective with approachability and coachability, you will exponentially improve the workplace. Thanks for your time, everybody. Scan this code. I hope you will let us know in the notes what you think of today's presentation, what you think of the title. Please scan this QR code again, get some information. We'll send you out a brochure and a list of titles that we have. We also custom build titles all the time as well. Thanks, everybody.